Success in any sport takes more than just the player in it, and this principle is applicable to NASCAR. While it is the driver ultimately crossing the finish line and delivering the interview, it's the team who gave him that car, the owner who gave him that job, and the crew chief who put him on that strategy. And sometimes, the crew chief's strategy is put on full display, whether it's a fuel mileage finish or just outsmarting the competition downright. So let's take a moment and appreciate some of the crew chiefs who seem to just have the keys to victory lane themselves. Here are the top 10 best crew chiefs in Cup Series history. My only rule for this is that we'll focus only on their crew chiefing career. Some might have had a life after jumping off the pit box, but we're just going to give that a mention. So, let's get into it. Number 10, Kirk Shelmerdine. After spending his early NASCAR career as an engineer for Hilton Engineering, in 1982 he joined Richard Childress Racing to become the crew chief for Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt had 46 wins, 142 top 5 finishes, and 246 top 10 finishes with Shelmerdine en route to 4 championships in 1986, 1987, 1990, and 1991. The pit crew won 4 consecutive pit crew titles over the next 8 years. His accomplishments include being the youngest crew chief to win a NASCAR race and the youngest crew chief to win a Winston Cup championship. In 1992, he announced he was retiring from his crew chief duties and embarked on a racing career on his own to pursue his dream of being a driver. While he isn't talked about much in the history books, he more than deserves to be, and it's only right that he'll be inducted into the 2023 Hall of Fame. Number 9, Ray Evernham. An ex-modified racer and IROC chassis specialist, Evernham started working for NASCAR driver Alan Kulwicki at the end of 1991. Their personalities clashed, and Evernham stayed with Kulwicki for just 6 weeks before quitting. As he was walking out of the garage area, some Ford engineers suggested that Ford might find Evernham another assignment outside of NASCAR's top division. Jeff Gordon had just become a Ford driver, and he had mentioned that he would like to work with Evernham again. The two had briefly worked together in 1990, when Evernham had worked on some chassis setups for Gordon's Pontiac team. The two instantly clicked. Evernham remained the crew chief for Gordon after he moved up into the Winston Cup Series for Hendrick Motorsports from the final race of 1992 to 1999. Gordon and Evernham won 47 Cup races and 3 championships, 1995, 1997, and 1998, and were the most dominant team in NASCAR Cup competition at the time. Helping his driver and his car wasn't the only thing Evernham did. He also helped his pit crew. Evernham is considered one of the innovators improving the duration and efficiency of pit stops. Instead of using the team's mechanics as a pit crew, Evernham created a group of specialists who would train to perfect their assigned task. Tire changing, tire carrying, etc. He incorporated choreography through various fitness programs and analyzing film. All of this cut the time of the pit stops from the traditional 20 to the one that became familiar for over 2 decades, 12 to 15-second stops. For his work as a crew chief, Evernham was voted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2018. Number 8, Buddy Parrott. James Kenneth Parrott's career began in 1968 when he became a tire changer for Huggins Tire, a Goodyear distributor. In 1970, Parrott worked under Harry Hyde for Bobby Isaac, who would win that year's championship. Parrott worked for Hyde's number 71 team through 1974. Then, in 75, he became the crew chief for Farrell Harris. In 1977, he was hired by Dyegard Motorsports as crew chief for Darrell Waltrip. The combination became one of the strongest in Winston Cup racing, as Waltrip and Parrott won 10 races in the 1977 to 1978 seasons. In 1979, Waltrip finished a close second in points. After winning 4 races in the first half of 1980, Parrott was fired from the Dyegard team. He finished the season with Harry Ranier's team and driver Buddy Baker. Parrott was hired by Charlotte medical doctor Ron Benfield as crew chief for a team he had formed in 1981. For 3 seasons, Parrott was crew chief of Benfield's number 98 car, driven by Johnny Rutherford, Morgan Shepherd, Rusty Wallace, and Joe Ruttman. In 1984, Parrott was hired by Mike Curb to be Richard Petty's crew chief. Parrott and Petty won at Dover and was crew chief for Petty's 200th career victory in the infamous 1984 Firecracker 400 at Daytona International Speedway. In 1987 and 1988, Parrott joined Jocko's Racing and became a part-time crew chief for the number 63 team. In 1990, Parrott joined Derek Cope of Bob Wickham's racing team and helped him win the 1990 Daytona 500. In 1992, Parrott was reunited with Wallace at Penske, winning 18 races together. 3 years later, he joined Diamond Ridge Motorsports to work with Steve Grissom. However, Parrott left the team citing business disagreements with the team owner. In 1997, he joined Jeff Burton's crew and helped him win the inaugural race at Texas Motor Speedway. And in 1998, he became the team manager for Mark Martin's Roush Racing team, where he remained through 2001, ultimately retiring. In total, he had some 50 wins as a crew chief. Number 7. Tim Brewer. Brewer won 2 championships as a crew chief working for owner Junior Johnson. His first was with driver Cale Yarborough in 1978, and his second was with Darrell Waltrip in 1981. Throughout his time, he worked with drivers Richard Childress, Tim Richmond, Neil Bonnet, Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, Bobby Labonte, Bill Elliott, and much, much more. In total, Brewer's drivers won 53 Cup Points races and 55 Cup Points pole positions. It's a shame we don't talk about this legendary crew chief enough. Number 6. Harry Hyde. A mechanic in World War II and a local car builder in the 50s, Hyde entered into NASCAR in 1965 when he was hired by Nord Crosskopf to be the crew chief of the K&K Insurance team. By 1969, the team began to see considerable success with driver Bobby Isaac, winning 17 races. In 1970, the team won the NASCAR championship, and Hyde was named Mechanic of the Year. The K&K team was one of the leaders through most of the 70s, but in 1977, the owners sold the team to J.D. Stacy. Yeah, that J.D. Stacy. The team continued to win some races, but in 1978, the relationship between Stacy and Hyde deteriorated, and Hyde left the team in mid-June. Late in 1978, Hyde would sue Stacy and would eventually win. In 1979, Emilio Scott hired Hyde to be the crew chief for his family team in 1979, with his son Tig Scott as the driver. Their first race together was that 1979 Daytona 500. Scott finished 6th in that race. At the following race at Rockingham Speedway, Scott recorded his best NASCAR result when he finished 4th. They competed in 15 more events that season and 10 more in 1980 before parting ways. In 1980, Hyde opened his own racing engine shop and supplied engines to various teams. In 1984, he was hired by Rick Hendrick to be the crew chief for a team he was in partnership with, All-Star Racing. The partnership did not work out, and Hendrick bought the team out, forming Hendrick Motorsports. The team won 3 races in 1984, with Jeff Bodine driving. Hyde was then paired with new driver Tim Richmond, as Hendrick went to a 2-car operation. The young Hollywood-esque punk contrasted heavily to the old-school grease-over-forehead strictness that made the old guard successful. However, after a few races, they developed a relationship and began to win some races. The team was very successful in 1986, winning 7 races and finishing 3rd in points, behind legends Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip. As you may know, Richmond missed most of 1987 after being diagnosed with AIDS, though he returned to the track in the Miller High Life 500 at Pocono. A shifter problem early on didn't deter him as he won that race. The very next week, he outclassed the field in the Budweiser 400 of Riverside, bringing home his final Winston Cup victory. Jimmy Means drove Richmond's Folger Chevrolet in the Oakwood Homes 500 to Charlotte, but the number 25 was reversed to the number 52, which was Jimmy's normal car number. He crashed on lap 20, finishing 40th. Car owner Rick Hendrick drove the Folger's number 25 in the Winston Western 500 Riverside, not faring much better. He left the race on lap 75 with transmission trouble, finishing 33rd. Ken Schrader became the driver for the number 25 team in 1988, but Hendrick had become a 3-car operation, and Hyde sometimes felt ignored. He left after the season to become crew chief for the Stavola brothers, where he worked through the first half of the 1991 season before moving to Chad Little's number 19 car. Hyde had 48 career victories. His forte was setting up cars for specific tracks. His race shop is still part of the Hendrick Motorsports facility and a road within the complex known as Hyde's Way. Hyde died in 1996 of a heart attack brought on by a blood clot and was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 2004. Number 5. Bud Moore. A Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, Moore fought in the Battle of Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, and Siege of Bastogne. A sergeant from 1943 to 1945, his military career is just about as fascinating as his racing career, and for those that are into that, I highly recommend reading about it. But this is a motorsports channel, so I'll get back to it. Upon returning to the States, Moore reunited with his childhood friend Joe Eubanks and opened a used car business working on cars used in moonshine running. The two traded a 1939 Ford for a race car and started competing in motorsports. After racing in smaller series, the two moved into NASCAR in 1950, debuting in the inaugural Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. Eubanks drove the number 4 car to a 19th place finish, with Moore serving as his crew chief. In 1956 and 1957, driver Buck Baker won the Grand National Series championship with Moore as crew chief. During his career as a crew chief, Moore won 49 races. His last race as a crew chief was the 1989 Atlanta race, working with Brett Bodine as he finished 23rd. You might know about his race team, Bud Moore Engineering, but that's a story for another day. Number 4. Herb Knapp. Considered one of NASCAR's greatest crew chiefs, Knapp guided a plethora of drivers to victory lane in the Cup Series, a group that included Hall of Famers such as Fred Lorenzen, Junior Johnson, Bobby Allison, and Buddy Baker. However, it was with another Hall of Famer where he reached the pinnacle of his success, Cale Yarborough. The duo finished second in 1973 and 1974 before winning the 1976 and 1977 championship together. In their 4 seasons together, they won 23 races. In Abb's entire career, he also collected 2 Daytona 500s, with Leroy Yarborough, no affiliation, in 1969 and Cale Yarborough in 77. With 74 wins and 64 poles in 338 races, put some respect on Abb's name. Number 3, Chad Knaus. Well, it seems like all we've talked about are crew chiefs of the past, but how about we talk about one that you might remember, Chad Knaus. After working with Stanley Smith's team, Knaus called Ray Evernham asking for a job. Fortunately, someone else had just been fired, allowing him to join the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports team led by crew chief Ray Evernham. From 1993 to 1997, Knaus advanced from being a general fabricator to managing the entire chassis and body construction program for the number 24 team. Serving as a rear tire changer on the original Rainbow Warriors pit crew, Knaus was a part of the 1995 and 1997 championship. Following the 1997 season, Knaus joined Dale Earnhardt Incorporated as car chief, where he worked with the number 1 team driven by Steve Park and eventually Darrell Waltrip in the 1998 season. After Park returned to the team from his injuries, Knaus and Waltrip moved to Tyler Jed Motorsports. In 1999, Knaus moved to Melling Racing after Evernham, who had just left Hendrick Motorsports, inviting him to lead the Dodge development team. During 2 Dodge test sessions, Knaus worked with driver Stacy Compton. The two worked well together, resulting in Knaus' promotion to crew chief for Compton in October 2000. In 2001, Compton and Knaus started in the front row for the Daytona 500, took the pole position at the Talladega 500, and qualified 3rd at the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. Despite restrictor plate track qualifying prowess, the team scored just 1 top 10, that Daytona 500, and 5 top 15 finishes. Knaus returned to Hendrick Motorsports for the 2002 season, becoming crew chief of the number 48 car driven by rookie driver Jimmy Johnson. The rest, as I say, is history. With over 80 wins and 7 championships and a couple Daytona 500s, the chemistry between the two was unrivaled. However, every relationship reaches some disagreements, and things boiled over after 2018. Knaus left to crew chief the young up-and-coming William Byron, scoring 5 poles in 2019. The 2020 Coke Zero 400 saw the birth of a superstar, with Byron getting his first win. It also saw the end of a legend, with Knaus scoring his final win. Number 2, Leonard Wood. In 1950, Wood and 2 of his brothers, Glenn and Delano, purchased a 1940 Ford, which was later modified and used in NASCAR, and the team made its first start in Lincoln at Martinsville on May 17, 1953. Wood was the team's engine builder, and as for the pit crew, well, it was originally composed of family and friends, and they became the first team in NASCAR history to record a 25-second 4-tire pit stop. The ingenuity of the team was second to none. Instead of using 4-prong lug wrenches, the team decided to use power wrenches, which cuts the time down to 25 seconds. They also modernized the floor jack. The jacks used to weigh 70 and 80 pounds and required at least 10 pumps of floor clearance. They disassembled the jacks and installed larger pistons, leading to only 2 to 3 pumps to clear. In 1965, Wood's team was hired by Jim Clark to pit for him in the 1965 Indianapolis 500, which went on to win. The team used a modified fuel can to make the gas flow faster. But as a crew chief in NASCAR, those 83 wins rightfully make him a Hall of Famer. Number 1, Dale Inman. Inman grew up playing with his second cousins Richard and Maurice Petty. The Petty brothers were the son of Lee Petty, who finished in the top 5 in points in NASCAR's stock car division every year from its formation in 1949 until 1959, and won the 1954, 1958, and 1959 championships. The teenage boys would attend some races and work on Lee's car after school and on weekends. Richard started racing in the late 1950s, with Maurice and Inman as part of his pit crew, as they were too young to be his crew chief. In 1960, Petty won his first NASCAR race. By this time, Maurice and Inman had become NASCAR mechanics. Maurice had been the mechanic and crew chief at the races. Petty Enterprises had him start concentrating on engine building for the team, and Inman became the crew chief at the races. Petty described him as the sport's first official crew chief. In 1967, Petty won a NASCAR record 10 straight races and 27 races during that season, with Inman as his crew chief. All 27 victories were in the same car that they built in 1966. He departed the team days after winning the 1981 Daytona 500. While being interviewed after winning the race, he told Ned Jarrett that he would soon be leaving the team. Inman had been crew chief for 188 of Petty's 193 victories up to that point. He was hired by Rod Osterlund to be the crew chief for 1980 champion Dale Earnhardt. That June, Osterlund sold the team to J.D. Stacy, and Earnhardt quit Stacy's team in August. He stayed with the team and was the crew chief for Joe Ruttman and Tim Richmond, winning 2 races with Richmond in 1982. For 1983 and 1984, he was hired by Billy Hagan to join Terry Labonte's team. They combined to win 3 races and the 1984 championship. He then returned to Petty Enterprises in 1986 to oversee the business side. He served as Petty's crew chief for 3 more seasons and continued in his role helping Richard Petty until Petty retired in 1992. After his retirement, Inman helped Petty Enterprises drivers Rick Wilson, John Andretti, Bobby Hamilton, and much more. Inman retired from NASCAR in 1998, having won 193 races and 8 championships. So there you have it, the top 10 best NASCAR Cup Series crew chiefs of all time. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, this has been the news. I'll see you.